TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast to support the show. A couple really quick notes. Thank you so much to Dave P., who's one of our recent Patreon donors. Thank you to everyone who came to our meetup last Saturday. I got out of the house for a night. It was fun. It was so nice to see people who are longtime listeners of the show. Like, I feel old because you were listening to me in high school type of old.
Yes.
But that was awesome. And it's always nice to actually get feedback in person.
Yeah, it was genuinely a very, very cool night.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who came out. Some people who drove hours to be there.
Hours.
That's
like
awesome.
Somebody came from Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and that's not close to us at all.
Yeah, and a lot of people brought their non-listening spouses, which was very kind.
Even the
and
spouses
patient.
were nice. So it was fun. So
thank you so much.
We'll
it really meant a lot.
maybe do it again in the future because it was awesome. I, Hemant, am going to be at California Freethought Day this weekend. It takes place on Sunday, October 13th. Registration is still available. I believe it is all free of charge, but you do have to register. You can go to freethoughtday.org, and it's near the Capitol building in Sacramento. So hope to see you there if you're in that area. Okay, we have to get to stories.
Okay.
And I have stories that I have to discuss with you that we have not discussed ahead of time.
Okay.
So this should be all sorts of interesting.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the first one.
Yes.
Dave Silverman is back in the news.
Is he?
Do you know why?
Oh.
Okay, this is what I did like all of yesterday night. But basically, let me give you a refresher, and then I'll talk about what's going on now. Yeah, longtime head of American Atheists, been there for almost a couple decades. Last April, there were allegations that there might have been financial misgivings, because he wrote a book. He was also running American Atheists. Maybe those two areas were mixing where they shouldn't have been.
Okay.
So the Board of American Atheists said, okay, we'll suspend him. We'll do an investigation. That seems like the prudent thing to do. Around the exact same time, there were allegations that came in of sexual misconduct.
Yeah.
Two in particular. There was a BuzzFeed article about it that detailed it. I won't get into all the details of it just for the sake of time here. But needless to say, when you pile all those things together, American Atheists acted relatively quickly and said, we came to a decision that we're going to fire him. Right. They did. And that was that. There was no lawsuit at the time, over the allegations. And then after the initial kind of shock of all that, he kind of faded away.
Right.
And was doing his own thing for a while. Over the past month, he's started to slowly make a kind of a comeback in the sense that he was giving interviews to practically anyone who would take him. And that was a lot of YouTube stuff. So he was talking to people who might have a sympathetic ear on YouTube, telling his side of the story. And his side of the story is basically, there were yes, I had those sexual encounters with those people. It was all consensual. Anything beyond that is, in his words, it's just not true.
Okay.
So he's been doing this for a few weeks. I have watched several of those interviews, and the thing that, forget the substance for a second. The thing that always bothers me about those interviews is who are you talking to? Because you're talking to a lot of the YouTubers who have so many problematic things they've said in their past.
Right.
You're talking to, if not the alt-right type of people, the people who feed feed viewers into the alt-right.
Right.
And
the gateway alt-right.
The gateway alt-right. It's part of me says, really? This is the fan base you now want to cultivate?
Oh.
And also, well, it's not like anyone else wanted to hear the story.
Right.
So I'm not surprised you would go there.
Right.
But okay, there's that. He also set up a website called Firebrand for Good, because he's always been this, I'm a firebrand.
Right.
I am not afraid of telling you religion's stupid.
Right.
And now he's rebranding himself as a firebrand for good. Okay. So all of this has happened in the past few weeks, and I didn't necessarily know where it was going. Like, he keeps saying, like, something's going to happen soon, and I don't know what that is. Now I know what that is. So here's what I found out yesterday. Basically, there's an organization called Atheist Alliance International. It has a history, like it's been around for a while. Don't need to get into all that. It's one of the like lesser known atheist groups.
Right.
But basically their focus is not on U.S. politics like a lot of groups are. It's focused on international issues. So blasphemy laws and people who live in Islamic theocracies who might be out as atheists and like, oh shit, I need to escape.
Yeah.
That's what their focus is. Atheist Alliance International has now announced that Dave will be hired as their first paid executive director.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, their press release where they announced this didn't mention any of the allegations.
Sure. Convenient.
If you're asking me, like, why did they hire him? My guess is, and part of this is what Dave said himself, it's basically that he brings an energy and a firebrandish history to the organization, and they like that. He probably will excite donors to the point where they will support the work the organization does, and they like that. And they also said regarding the allegations, like, they're allegations. It's a he said, she said sort of thing. It's not like he's been convicted of anything. Cool. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt, or however you want to interpret that. So,
and he has name recognition.
This is what they said in the press release. This is from Gail Miller, who's in Canada. She's the president. David is a well-known public atheist, a powerful leader, and a compelling public speaker. He has proven management and organizational skills, including leadership of national and local organizations in the U.S. He's a personality who will make things happen. So, that's one thing. And I did ask, I had a chance to ask the organization a few questions. My questions were like, whose idea was this?
Yeah.
They said that one of their board members who knows Dave suggested him for the position. It's not like they had a job application on their website.
Sure.
I don't even think they were, I didn't know they were looking for anybody.
Right.
But one of their board members said we should consider him for this position. They literally, I don't think they interviewed anybody else. They asked him, would you be interested? They had discussions privately about, I'm sure, all the issues.
Right.
And they ultimately decided that whatever the downside is of hiring him, the positives outweigh it all.
Sure.
So yesterday I also talked to Dave for the first time since all of this came out. I still don't know how to, I told him this too, I still don't know how to react to it because I know too many people involved in the story for me to have an unbiased, like, objective opinion on all this.
Right.
I just wanted him to answer some of these questions about the details. His argument is something I've heard him say in the videos too. What he told me is he's never received due process from American atheists. He said everything was consensual, and then he added, like, and they know it. Okay. He also said, like, they probably feel bad about it in the back of their minds. And then I didn't respond to that. And then he added, at least I hope they do. I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
He also said he still considers himself a feminist, which is fine, but that's like, I don't know, Dave Rubin saying, I'm a liberal, but I'm a classical liberal.
Right.
I just hate everything progressives like. That sort of thing. I mean, it's not like he's going to vote for Trump, so he's like, I'm still a liberal.
Right.
He doesn't like the word progressive or whatever he thinks that connotes. What else did I ask? And what else did I get from him? I asked the organization, like, okay, so suppose all the allegations that came out against Silverman that American atheists had to look at and make a decision about, what would you do in that same situation? Their answer to me was that if anything I'm quoting here, if anything similar were to happen in the future, we would respect due process, but we have strict conduct policies that apply to everyone here, and we will enforce them. Okay. Doesn't answer the question, but doesn't dodge it necessarily. So I asked American Atheists also, okay, do you have any comment on any of this? Oh, I forgot to mention this. Dave has also filed a lawsuit. It's one lawsuit with a bunch of defendants.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lawsuit over defamation because he says all this stuff that's come out about him has basically made him a pariah, and he says it's all false and they know it, which is what defamation would be.
Right.
That lawsuit goes against the two women who accused him of this stuff. It's against BuzzFeed for publishing their article. It's against American Atheists for basically playing along in all this.
Yeah.
I don't know how he wins that case. I think it's almost like one of those cases where the lawsuit itself is the story and not the necessary outcome.
Right.
Just the idea like, well, he filed a lawsuit, so he must have a point.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think he's going to win a defamation case.
Streisand effecty that like,
which may be the point.
Yeah.
He just wants the attention maybe for the thing. I don't know that he has a legal case, but whatever. I'm not a lawyer. Don't ask me. American Atheist said we have no comment about Mr. Silverman because he has chosen to file a frivolous lawsuit against our organization rather than move on with his life. So that's out there. Again, it's hard for me to have a take on this just because I'm too close to these people. But the thing that I'm curious about is like Atheist Alliance International, if let's say they get this higher profile that they are seeking, I'm really curious what sort of base they want to cultivate now. Because basically the people who are signing up to donate, if there are those people today, I don't know, you're basically getting a bunch of people who have this mentality that, false allegations, that's what women do.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm going to totally believe him over what the victims said.
Right.
And they said they were assaulted when BuzzFeed talked to them. They said that in their own paperwork that they submitted to American Atheist Board. I don't know what type of fan base you're trying to get. I don't know what type of donor base you want to get as an organization. I don't know how you are proud of that necessary base. And I have seen on Twitter plenty of people saying like, well, now I'm going to support this organization. This is a horrible analogy that I will regret in 2 minutes, but like I've thought about this when I hear like Andrew Yang speak. Like as a candidate with his policy positions, I find myself agreeing with a ton of them. Like, yeah, those are good ideas. I don't love you as a candidate because I don't think you did all the work to get to be president.
Yeah.
Not that Donald Trump did or anything. And also, I love Elizabeth Warren, and I think she's way smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
But every time I see him, it's always like in some context, like, oh, he's talking to Joe Rogan. Oh, he's talking to all these other people.
He went on Dr. Oz.
He went on Dr. Oz and said, oh, people learn medicine this way. It's like, dude. No.
He's not aligning himself with a great
That's
crew.
exactly, he's totally willing to talk to anybody, and that means he has like no principled stand on like, I'm not going to talk to certain people because their values don't align with mine. Because he's just trying to get whatever attention he can. But also the people who are the most vocal champions of him, I'm always like, I don't know that I trust your judgment on a lot of other things.
Yes.
That's not even a knock on Yang. That's just like, look at your fan base. I don't love your fan base.
Yeah, I made the mistake of like clicking on Yang Gang during, I think, the last debate. And I was like, oh, I regret this immediately. I hate all these people.
So it's, I don't know. So I feel the same way about like AAI. Like, who are you trying to cultivate as your base? And by the way, the weird thing is, the stuff that they say we want to do, all this international anti-blasphemy, helping these people, that's good stuff. Like, I like what they're doing. And the thing that would trouble me about this donor base and the thing that would be troubling about Silverman now running that organization, in theory, have nothing to do with the things they want to accomplish as an organization.
Right.
And again, you could very easily, if you wanted to, separate all the drama from the stuff they're going to do. I mean, not that they asked me for advice, but my advice would be just focus on your mission and get shit done.
Right.
And you might get some goodwill that way. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I wanted to get that out there just because it happened. That's like all I did yesterday night. And I don't know. You know how different social media that you use has a very different type of, like, Facebook people is one genre of social media types. Twitter is another. All the people on Facebook who have public posts about this sort of thing were very much like, this is a horrible idea. The people on Twitter seemed overwhelmingly supportive of the decision. Yeah. Not that it's like, I'm not trying to suggest there's a balance here. I'm just saying, like, the people who are involved in the movement, I would say this, are very much against it because they were against it when it all happened. Because, again, they know the victims. They know what the stories were. And so they're like, yeah, like American Atheists did the right thing when they made their decision. They're not worried about like, oh, no, there was no due process. They were running off of rumors. That's not their take on it because they talk to these people regularly. The people who are very removed from the situation because they only hear like bits and pieces or whatever Silverman's Twitter account are like, yep, I believe you wholeheartedly. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to another story. But I just wanted to mention that. You want to talk about something more interesting?
Yes.
Let's talk about Beto O'Rourke and the CNN town hall.
Oh, okay. So I didn't watch it last night.
I didn't see the whole thing. I saw clips. I know you wanted to talk about the Elizabeth Warren line.
I sure do.
What was her line?
It was so good. Somebody said, okay, what if a supporter comes up to you and says, like, I'm old-fashioned and my religion tells me that marriage is between one man and one woman. And she said, quote, well, I'm going to assume it's a guy who said that, which is so fucking good. Good job, Elizabeth Warren. And I'm going to say, just marry one woman. I'm cool with that, assuming you can find one. Boom. Anyway, love Elizabeth Warren, ride or die.
I don't care if that was scripted. It was beautiful.
Who cares if it was scripted?
Everything is scripted, but it was still such a good delivery.
Yeah,
and the swagger walking back.
Oh, she's so good.
Okay, so Beto O'Rourke, who is not even like a top-tier candidate at this point.
Right.
But they asked a question specific to church-state separation, which is why I wanted to bring it up here. Here was the question they asked him, basically. I'm paraphrasing here. Should religious institutions lose their tax-exempt status if they oppose same-sex marriage? And O'Rourke's answer was yes. Very blunt, one-word answer.
So he thinks that churches should lose their tax-exempt status. Okay.
If they're anti-gay, basically.
Okay.
And then I'm going to quote this whole thing. Here's what he said after the applause died down. There can be no reward, no benefit, no tax break for anyone or any institution, any organization in America that denies the full human rights and the full civil rights of every single one of us. And so as president, we're going to make that a priority, and we're going to stop those who are infringing upon human rights of our fellow Americans. Okay, so that's his full answer. Here's where it seems like he's answering a question nobody asked, and he totally missed the point, because I thought he gave a horrible answer.
Okay.
Because here's what the question was, like, if they oppose same-sex marriage. But, like, you can think whatever you want as a pastor. If you're like, nope, no gay people getting married in this church, I think they should have the right to say that. I think they could say, we're not going to marry gay couples in this building. I'm not going to preside over that wedding and conduct the ceremony. And I don't think they should lose their tax-exempt status because they're bigots. And I do think they're bigots. Here's the separation that, okay, forget O'Rourke's answer. Here's my separation here. Christians, churches, whatever, they can believe whatever they want. If they want to say the world is flat and evolution is a hoax and God created Adam and Eve for a reason, like, fine, you could say that. I don't think we should take away tax exemptions based on their beliefs, because that power could easily be used against us depending on who's in power. And again, the issue here is their thoughts and what are they doing within their little bubbles. I think they should be able to get away with damn near anything within their bubbles. Now, where I get iffy about the tax exempt thing is I just want churches to play by the same rules that govern nonprofits with tax exempt status. Like the U.S. rule for anyone listening is if you are a nonprofit group, your goal is not to make money. You have a cause that you believe in.
Right.
You get a tax, like you don't have to pay taxes on the money you make from donations and stuff like that.
Right.
That's a good thing. I want nonprofits to be tax exempt. That's good. That's how Planned Parenthood works. That's how the NRA works in theory. Like, this is what happens to any nonprofit group, and churches and religious institutions are in that mix. Now, here's the difference. Churches get special rules. They don't have to file the same paperwork that, say, Planned Parenthood has to fill out. They don't have to be transparent about how much money they take in or how they're spending it. They don't even have to tell their congregations how much the pastor gets paid, which is the case at a lot of mega churches. I think they should have to fill out the same paperwork. I think they should not be able to tell their congregations how to vote, which is the Johnson Amendment issue.
Right.
And if they break those rules, and if they didn't get special treatment, and they didn't break the rules, I wouldn't have a problem with this. My issue is that even though they already have it pretty damn good, and they get this special treatment, they still complain about how they're like under attack by the government because, like, how dare the government tell us we can't tell people who to vote for? It's like no nonprofit gets to tell people who to vote for. That's the game.
So is your concern like more slippery slope, or is it more giving them fodder to be persecuted, to cry persecution?
They're going to cry persecution no matter what. They do it now, and they already have it better than anybody else. But, like, I just want them to play by the same rules. I don't think we need to go overboard and say, hey, you have a belief that we don't like, so we're going to take away your tax-exempt status. Now, the second those pastors leave their bubble and they say, hey, we're going to write legislation, and we support legislation, like, we're going to... I'm a pastor and I'm also a state senator, which is the case for a lot of people. And I'm going to write legislation. Then by all means, like, that's not okay. We should scream about that. We should, like, complain about that. That's all the right reasons. I care about what the government does. The government shouldn't be in the business of telling churches this is what you got to do. And when Beto O'Rourke says, no, the government should tell churches what to do, and the answer is they better be on the side of LGBTQ rights, that crosses a line for me. I mean, ethically, I'm with him, but legally speaking, no. You're just giving the religious right reason to say, look, Democrats are godless. They want to tell you that your views are wrong. They hate Christians. Like, he's feeding into that. They don't even have to take him out of context. You play this thing in context, it sounds real. It sounds like all the demonizing that Christian right people do. And they're always like, well, look, Elizabeth Warren used this word, and therefore we're going to take the worst possible interpretation of it. They don't have to do that here. They could play the whole clip and say, see, it's like we told you, they hate what we believe.
I don't know. I completely
Kim
understand.
Davis, the Kentucky clerk,
Yeah.
that's a problem. She's a Christian in the government who said, I'm not signing your same-sex marriage license. That's a problem. We should go after her because she's the government saying my bigotry is getting in the way of my job. If a courthouse judge said, no, I'm not going to sign your wedding license, you got to find another judge to do that for you, that's a problem.
Right.
If a pastor says, no, gay couples can't get married in my church, fine. That is fine. There shouldn't be a government punishment.
But at what
for
point
those churches.
is that, like, okay, what if a church said we don't allow black people in our church?
They should have the right to do that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if they're running a business and they say that, screw that. No, get that business out of there. They should be
But at
sued
what point
for
is that
discrimination.
government-mandated bigotry? Because if they're getting tax-exempt status in spite of these views that we as a country have decided are no longer acceptable,
Yeah.
at what point...
And by the way,
at what point
churches
are
do that thing. Like, we're not going to do interracial marriages in this church. They have done that.
Yeah.
Here's the distinction for me. What's the difference between
at
what
what
you
point-
just said hypothetically and this administration right now saying, hey, Planned Parenthood, you support abortion. We say that's murder. That's against the law. We're going to revoke your tax-exempt status because basically you're breaking the law that says murder is bad. I think it's the same slippery slope, and I don't want that to happen. I think it's bad policy. So again, look, we could totally blast the racist hypothetical church you're talking about. We should totally talk about them. We should complain about them. We should call out their bigotry. That is different from the government stepping in and saying, you hold these views that are abhorrent, so we're going to punish you for it by taking away the thing that all nonprofits get.
Yeah.
Like, so that's my issue. It's unconstitutional what Beto O'Rourke was suggesting. I think he did it in the heat of the moment. He's in front of an LGBTQ audience.
Right.
He's low in the polls. He's got to stand out from other progressive candidates.
Right.
So it sounds like the right thing on paper. but it's not. And by the way, a lot of people online loved it as much as they loved the Elizabeth Warren mic drop moment.
Yeah.
Like they were like, yeah, go after those bigoted churches. Like, no, this is not the game we should be playing here. Let's focus on the Christians in power in government who are using their beliefs as justification for bigotry under the guise of the law.
Yeah.
Go after them, not the
guess-
pastors who are like the same way in their own homes.
I guess my thought is the slippery slope in the opposite direction of, okay, so what if the KKK decided like, okay, we're a nonprofit and our mission is to purify the white race or whatever the fuck they believe. Do they?
I think there's a distinction when it comes to
straight up and down hate group.
I think
but, like,
there's
where's the
violence is a difference there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I mean,
that
there are plenty of groups that are anti-Muslim, that are anti-atheists, that are. I'm sure plenty would argue that there are atheist groups that are against religion in the same way. I would say they're wrong, but my issue is Beto O'Rourke wants the government to step in and tell churches what they can and cannot believe. If basically the tax exemption is what a lot of these places need to survive, churches need it, and the nonprofits need it, secular nonprofits need it to survive. And he's basically saying, if you don't agree with me on this issue, even though it's morally right, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to basically change the rules to put you out of existence.
Yeah, I completely understand what you mean and where you're coming from. Yeah, I think you're right, but I don't want you to be right.
I will say I heard from a couple people who work for church-state separation organizations who said that what basically I'm telling you here, they're like, yes, that's the right approach. We don't want the government telling churches what they can and cannot believe. There's a difference between that and saying, hey, you should all vote for Donald Trump because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
That crosses a line. But again, the whole point of a nonprofit group is you have a cause you believe in. You're not here to make money. You're here to advance your beliefs.
Right.
And as a government, we think that's a general good thing, even if we don't love all the things these various groups believe. So we want more nonprofits. So here's the benefit. We're not going to tax you. And if that helps you survive and thrive and do your thing, more power to you. That's kind of the setup that the government has. And to go after a certain group of people saying, we don't like the thing you believe because it's horrible, that is a slippery slope that could be used all sorts of ways.
Right.
That's my issue with it. So in spirit, I'm with him. Legally, he's way off track here.
Yeah, okay, fine.
All right, I got one more.
Okay.
One that I had to get to, and then we can get to some other ones. This one has to do with the NFL, which we're both experts in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a player, a linebacker, Demario Davis. He's the captain for the New Orleans Saints.
This the God soldier?
Yeah, sure.
What
so
is it? Okay.
A couple weeks ago, he wore this headband that said "Man of God."
Oh, okay.
Like it's visible during pregame warm-ups. He wore it during the game. You could see it on TV. And the NFL, and this is like, this isn't even like Tim Tebow, like Tebowing, where he's just kneeling after a play or something. This is, the NFL has very strict rules about like a dress code thing.
Yeah.
Not just for safety issues. They say, unlike the NBA, you cannot put personal messages on the stuff you gotta wear. Like none of that. The NBA is much more liberal about that stuff, not the NFL. So when it comes to football, you can't put messages on your eye black. You can't wear like a bandana or a wristband.
I feel like a few years ago somebody got fined because he was wearing the wrong color shoes to bring mental health awareness or something like that.
I don't remember the specific case, but yeah, that would be something the NFL would do, which is weird because like of all the protocols that like of all the things the NFL doesn't do, this is the thing they're very sticklerish about. But they said, dude, we don't care what your headband says. And it's not a safety issue, but you're wearing a personal message. You can't do that. They fined him $7,017, which is the stated fine for a first offense of this kind. So naturally, Christians who saw this are like, what? You're persecuting him for being a Christian? No, they were going after him for breaking the rules, and that would apply to anybody. But of course, this was taken as like a Christian, anti-Christian thing. And like, by the way, the NFL is not anti-Christian. They're very much pro-Christian, given all the stuff that comes out.
Sidebar, Brandon Marshall was fined about $10,000 for his green mental health awareness shoes.
Sounds like something the NFL would be like, what? Mental health? We don't want anything to do with that. So Demario Davis posts this thing like, I got fined $7,000 for my headband. Should I continue to wear it or nah? On Instagram. You can guess how that went over.
Yeah, did a bunch of people make them and like wear them somewewhere?
Yeah, and he's selling them.
Oh.
And not for himself even.
Just like
it's
Jesus
going to a
would.
charity.
Oh, okay.
It's going to charity. But by the way, there was a private school in New Orleans where the kids all wore headbands
is that what it
this
was?
week saying child of God.
Gross.
Like, oh, yeah, seriously, gross. Because if it said anything that we're not used to seeing, if it's like child of Allah, you know they would flip out everywhere.
Right.
But because it's Christianity, it's always okay. Which it's creepy what the kids did.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thought process, my first thought was like, good, he got fined. Like, he shouldn't have done the thing that, like, everyone knows you can't do. So, of course, guess what happened this week? The NFL said, we're not going to fine you.
Oh, come on.
Yep.
According
to Davis on Instagram, my agent just told me I won my appeal and won't have to pay the headband fine. Then I saw what those kids, I'm paraphrasing, then I saw what the kids did at that school. Like, look at those beautiful children of God. Anyways, I'm going to donate $7,017 to this local children's Catholic hospital. And all the money that he's selling from the headband is also going to the hospital. Like, good, fine. It's a fine cause. I don't care about that. You could have done that on your own. But my only issue here is, like, if his headband had said, like, God doesn't exist,
right,
or I love Colin Kaepernick, or whatever, the NFL would never have been so lenient. But, like, because he's promoting Christianity and Christians were like, the NFL hates us, of course they overturned the fine. Like, it's such a hypocritical thing for the NFL to do. Like, and I know of all the things the NFL does, this is relatively low on the totem pole.
Like, you're not going to bait me into siding with the NFL on something. I will not go there. This is such, God, to me, this is such a nothing burger of a story. It's just so, like, he wore the thing. He wasn't supposed to wear the thing. Like, oh my God, who fucking cares?
Because it's always the Christians.
I know. Oh. But it's a nothing burger on all sides of it. Like, the Christian righteous outrage is a fucking nothing burger. Like, it's all stupid and I hate
Mike
it.
Huckabee would like you to know why so many empty seats at NFL games. Players who show disrespect for the flag and the anthem are defended by the NFL and get Nike contracts, but players who express their faith get fined big money for personal messages.
Imagine knowing anything about the NFL and that's the lesson you take from it. Imagine living in a world where you think the problem with football is people get fined for wearing a headband, not the huge amount of spousal abuse that we see there or the very, very, very common traumatic brain injuries that we see in football players. Like, imagine the problem being a headband. Like, Mike Huckabee has his head so far up his own ass. I don't even know how
he saw the headband.
Ugh.
Yes.
I hate that. That put me in a cranky mood, Hemant.
You're welcome.
Mad at
My
you.
work here is done.
Are you...
You go for it.
Okay. I have a couple of quick things I want to run through. We're kind of on a tight time schedule. So, some good news. A school in Louisiana declined free Chick-fil-A. Which is... What is this world right now? Okay, so Chick-fil-A, which we know is the Christian chicken...
Christian owners. The Christian owners are anti-gay. They've given their money, personal money, to anti-gay groups. They've used Chick-fil-A's philanthropic organization to give money to anti-gay groups.
Right.
And it's not like they discriminate against... They don't not hire gay people. But the organization, the business, has given money to anti-gay groups.
Correct.
That's the issue with Chick-fil-A.
So Chick-fil-A offered free meals for teachers at a New Orleans school, and it was rejected by the principal, Dr. Stephen Corbett. Quote, out of respect to our LGBTQ staff, We have chosen not to serve Chick-fil-A at an employee lunch. The number one rule at Lusher, which is a school, is to be kind, and we live this motto every day. Chick-fil-A has been politically outspoken about its views, and we feel like it is not part of Lusher's culture of kindness community. We made the decision to support our staff members who are LGBTQ and other supporters. We felt that anytime an organization is anti-LGBTQ and has efforts to infringe upon their rights, we thought it was important to support and stand up for their community at this time. So that's good news.
That is.
They did a good
it's
thing.
nice that they took a stand on that one. I'm sure there are other restaurants who are willing to donate food because they're usually pretty good about, like, let's get in good with the local schools.
Right.
Because then their families will eat at our place.
Right.
So
Yeah. I
it's
think
not
they
like
got their
Chick-fil-A is
lunch.
the
I don't
only
think we're
food
worried.
on the line here.
Right.
So yay.
Much worse news. Uganda is at it again.
Yeah.
So about 5 years ago, this was going on for a long time because I remember
2009 is the first time
Yeah.
one of their politicians proposed a bill that would basically have the death penalty for anyone caught doing something gay. And then it really kicked into high gear in 2012. Like, they had the bill and it actually passed.
Right.
And it was only overturned on a technicality in 2014 because
Yeah.
they said, I think the issue was like, not enough of you voted and
Right.
you needed a certain number of people to make a
Right.
quorum.
Yeah,
like,
I
weird
remember-
technical issue, not on the moral issue.
I remember writing about it like back in the day, back when I was blogging with you.
Yeah.
Like that was a huge story.
Yeah.
And I thought
Christian leaders in the U.S. were guilty of going to
Yes.
Uganda to say, like, they were the ones who inspired those bills.
Yes.
Because they keep going to Africa and saying, let us tell you about the gays.
Oh yeah, Christian missionaries love doing that kind
And
of shit.
the politicians in Uganda are like, wow, well, if everything you say is true
And why wouldn't it be?
and these gays are recruiting the kids,
Mm-hmm.
then we must murder them. And then all these Christian pastors are like, well, don't take us that seriously. Like, we want nothing to do with this. So
Yeah.
now they're bringing...
Well.
So
Isn't it, if it isn't the consequences of your own actions.
So in 2014, this bill had been overturned. So it
Right.
never went into effect. And
Right.
it was even, like, downgraded from kill the gays to just, like, maim them.
Yeah. So kind.
But even that was overturned, and then we never saw it again. So it was like, all right, crisis averted until this week.
Yeah, so that's back. So it was nullified 5 years ago. The government is going to resurrect it. Ethics and Integrity Minister Simon Lokoto said, quote, homosexuality is not natural to Ugandans, but there has been a massive recruitment by gay people in schools and especially among the youth where they are promoting the falsehood that people are born like that. Our current penal law is limited. It only criminalizes the act. We want to make it clear that anyone who is even involved in promotion and recruitment has to be criminalized. Those that do grave acts will be given the death sentence.
Yeah. And the sad thing is that the guy who's basically writing this bill says, at least publicly, yep, I have enough votes that the quorum issue, that technicality from 2014, won't be an issue this time around. And my fear is not necessarily that he has the votes for this bill, but that there's so much crazy going on around the world that there won't be enough international pressure to get them to, like, back down from this.
Yeah, 2012 feels like a century ago in terms of, like, what our concerns were. And this was and it's still obviously a huge deal, but compared to what's happening in the U.S. right now, it probably won't spark the outrage that it should. So that's kind of fucked and not great.
Here's a similar one going on in North Carolina where it's another religious mandated sort of thing. There is a sheriff's office in Scotland County, North Carolina, and the sheriff is this guy who posts a lot of Christian stuff on the office's Facebook page. Like, that's illegal in and of itself, but he posts scripture. He says God is good. He does all this stuff on Facebook. But Sheriff Ralph Kersey now has gone even further. He allegedly sent this to all employees, and it was forwarded to the Freedom from Religion Foundation, who posted this online. There's a new policy. No employee is allowed to live with their partner if they're not married. No cohabitation. It will be, I'm quoting, it will be prohibited for you to live with another while employed at the Scotland County Sheriff's Office unless you are officially married according to the law and word of God.
How do they enforce that?
They show up at your door every damn night, apparently.
Yeah, that...
They said, if you're cohabitating now, we'll let it slide.
Oh, my goodness,
But
so generous.
If they said this in the policy. If your current relationship should cease, you will comply with the new policy change. Like, hey, if you break up, this goes into effect for you too.
So inappropriate.
Completely.
Oh my God. There's going to be a lawsuit about this, right?
FFRF said, change this now
Yeah.
or we'll take action. We'll see what they do.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That is a bananas
Imagine
thing to
being
have.
a sheriff and saying, you know what the real problem is in my
Right.
community? People who love each other live together and
Aren't
they
married.
might be doing it, but they're not married.
Yeah, can you imagine such a thing?
Oh my God.
Fuck, man.
I want to get your take on this story because I saw this today.
Okay.
And there is an ending that the news did not cover. So I want to get this to you. Okay, West Johnston High School, Benson, North Carolina. There's a Fellowship of Christian Athletes Club. That's not unusual. A lot of schools have that. And the kids posted a sign in the hallway. I don't know what the school's policies are, like if kids can randomly post stuff or if they got this approved, but they put up a poster in the hallway. It says this: don't worry about anything. Instead, pray, big letters, pray about everything. And they quoted a Bible verse where it basically says that. Now, the students are allowed to post that. Like, a Christian group is allowed to say, we are promoting
Sure.
Christianity. I wasn't bothered by the sign. It's wrong and
Yeah.
it's stupid. It's like a bad
Objectively bad
message.
advice.
Yes. But that's about it. Like, whatever. It's the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Sure,
They're
sure,
allowed
sure.
to be silly and not know stuff. Okay, but here's the thing. Here's why this is a story. A teacher put up a sign in response right next to theirs.
Really?
And this is a former teacher of the year in the county. Like, he's a guy who has a good reputation at
Wow.
the school. Like, kids like him. Brian Vanderlask. And I know this because he signed his name on the damn poster.
Whoa.
He said, with an arrow pointing to their sign, if you're sick, you should go to the doctor. This is terrible medical advice. Some people have died / gone to jail because of it.
Oh my God.
So first of all, he's right.
Yeah.
He's totally right. Prayer does not help unless maybe you use it as meditation. But like, he's right. Like, if you have a disease or anything serious, you do need to worry.
Yeah.
Like, prayer will not solve a lot of your problems.
I would argue most of your problems.
Yes. So anyway, he's right. But a teacher basically said, hey, Christians at the school saying, hey, we should all pray. No, it's a horrible idea. That is where he's probably crossing a line.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just imagining, because I've seen this happen. An atheist club at a high school or a college says, hey, we're having a meeting to discuss why God doesn't exist or something like that.
Yeah.
And we've seen this graffiti, like whether it's from students or teachers or whatever, but people will write Bible verses on with a Sharpie, or they'll put up a Post-it note saying like, trust God. And that I find inappropriate too.
Yeah, I think while this is extremely funny and right, it feels a little like bullying from the teacher.
Yeah. Now, the district basically said to a local news station, our HR department and the superintendent, and I said, we're working with the principal to investigate
Medical advice.
and decide an appropriate response. Now, I was stalking all of the people involved in this, and there was a Facebook thread I saw where someone chimed in saying the news didn't cover the follow-up to all this.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was my response too, like, oh, yeah, they sure didn't. And here's what they said. They said both, so take this all with a grain of salt.
Okay.
They said both sides have already reconciled. Basically, the principal and 2 members of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, they already met to discuss, and they met with the teacher. They all sat down, they all discussed this, and allegedly, the teacher fully apologized for his actions and said the reason he felt he had to respond is because he has suffered illness in his life that almost killed him. So he had a visceral reaction.
Oh, sure.
And that's why he spoke out. But the students kind of understood that and why he responded. They weren't upset or angry about it. The teacher apologized for making this public.
Right.
And basically, it seems, if I can trust this thing, and I don't know that I can, it seems like everyone involved has dealt with it.
Yeah.
And like the teacher apologized saying, I shouldn't have done what I did, but here's why I felt so compelled to act. And the students seem like they're like, yeah, okay, we understand what you're getting at.
Right.
And I hope that's the end of it. I would like to think you just, hey, the principal talked to him. You could just say, listen, we spoke with the teacher. He won't be doing this again. There will be consequences if he does. But we spoke to him. We feel that this has been taken care of.
Cool.
Like, that's a response that I would be happy with, but I'm making all of that up. I don't know what the district is doing.
Right.
I hope the response from, like, Christians online, as it so often is, isn't so over the top that this teacher has to be suspended, disciplined in any serious way, if all of this is accurate. But shit, that's a funny response.
That is extremely funny. I like that a whole lot.
We got time for one more.
Okay, this one's quick. So there is a 15-year-old student in Maine who was suspended for bullying because she would leave Post-it notes sticky notes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Non-branded.
Is it not branded? Yeah.
In bathrooms saying, there's a rapist in our school and you know who it is.
Wow.
So, her name is Ayla, A-E-L-A, Ayla Mansman. That's quite a name. She apparently has brought the issue of sexual assault and harassment to teachers and has been kind of brushed off. And so she started doing this. She said, quote, it was really... So the Post-it note wasn't in, like, pointing at one specific person. She was just saying, there is a rapist here, you know who, like...
And she's told school officials about who this person is. She feels they haven't done enough.
Right.
So she's just trying to warn students who might have heard rumors, I guess.
Yeah, so she said it was really just addressing the general culture of her school and keeping in mind several specific cases, but there's so many, it's hard to pinpoint just one and advocate just one of them. So they suspended her because a student complained that they were targeted by the note.
Wow.
Again,
that seems like
very clear about this. The note wasn't about any one person. Yeah. And some dude heard about it, presuming it's a dude.
Yeah.
And felt targeted. Like, and nobody said, why do you, if I say there's a rapist in this school and you're like, hey.
Stop that.
Hashtag not all rapists.
Yeah, why do you think they're talking about you, buddy?
Yeah, so...
But they punished the girl. That sounds
They punished
about
the
right.
girl. Apparently, administrators spent several weeks questioning Mansman and her friends in an effort to find out who wrote the note. And this is BuzzFeed. And not, apparently, if they did indeed think there's a rapist on campus, which one might consider a more pressing topic for investigation. Yeah, so for 3 weeks, they would, like, bring her and her friends in for interviews and interrogation. And then, finally, either she admitted it or they pinned it on her or whatever. Yeah, so one student said she reported a sexual assault to school staff twice, but it was, quote, brushed off and the topic kept getting changed. And now they said she reported unwanted touching from a student to a school social worker, but was similarly brushed off. Quote, I was like, okay, I guess they can't do anything about it, so I'll just deal with it. So, anyway, this is the world our young women are living in. They're getting harassed and nobody gives a fuck, but we have to protect the boys' feelings.
Bookend for this show.
Okay.
Where do we find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. You can order a cross stitch from me. I do a lot of custom work for listeners at Bitches Get Stitched Done on Etsy. Hemant?
I am at Hemant Meta on Twitter, and go to patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast.
Yep,
I'm at friendlyatheist.com.
Yeah, you can...
You know where to find me. I'm in
Mikey
the same
says
place.
hi, too.
Hi, Mikey.
email us, friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com, especially if you're complaining about me to Hemant, because I will read it, and then I will read it out loud to my husband. Okay, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.